Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here at the very top of the show, first things first, we hope that the internet gods are going to be good to us this evening, because the last episode you heard, it may sound flawless and beautiful as you listen to it in your headphones or your car or wherever you listen to it. It was somewhat a challenging edit. I had 8 separate different edits to make where the internet conked out, and then I had to comp 2 different files. So I won't bore you with the technicalities of that, but it was kind of a pain. So please, I hope you enjoyed that episode.
Wherever the Shentel gods are, we're calling for you. It's funny because for those who don't know, whenever it was Tim's internet this time, last time it was my internet, Tim probably did 37 different cuts, but this one, it was Tim's internet that was having a problem. And each time we'd cut out, I would be singing a different song, waiting for him to come back.
I have those files because you sent me the recording that you did, and maybe that'll make it on the No Name Music Cast Christmas tape or something. I don't know.
Some bloopers of me singing, he'll be back, he'll be back, he'll be back.
Well, anyway. There we are. Well, anyhow, at the top of the show here, I would like to go into music news. Music news.
Bam, bam, bam.
Okay, so this is just a small music news item. Now, as you know, something that we constantly talk about on the No Name Music Cast is that no decent bands ever come to Roanoke, and Roanoke being the nearest town to us. I mean, I live in Christiansburg, Joy lives in Radford, but Roanoke is like the nearest big town, if you like, and it has a regional airport and all that kind of stuff. And as we've said before, they have a couple of places to play. They have the Performing Arts Centre, they have the Civic Centre, which is a large arena. They have an outdoor stage, Elmwood Park Amphitheatre, and Dr. Pepper Park, all this kind of stuff. And on the whole, maybe Dr. Pepper Park doesn't seem to do too bad, but on the whole, we never get any touring acts in Roanoke that are any good. It's just, you look at like, oh, the Darkness are playing in the US, and you're like, oh, look. They're not coming anywhere near here.
I think Weird Al was the most recent that I heard came close, and that was a while ago.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. But anyhow, I was very surprised when I saw the band Extreme were touring, and Extreme are coming to the Roanoke Performing Arts Theatre. And they're going to be coming here on Wednesday, January 31st next year. And I'm very pleased to say I've secured a ticket on Nuno Betancourt's side of the stage, about 5 rows back, and it was not expensive. It was like $38 plus fees plus. It was less than $60 all in.
I was going to ask, did you have to sell your kidney to go? But you answered the question.
No, I was really surprised. They had like a meet and greet package where you could sit in on the sound check, and stuff like that to me is like being at band practice. I'm not really interested in that.
So you hear enough sound checks of your own, don't you?
Yeah, I don't really need to spend 20 minutes with Gary Sharon asking if he can have some more vocal in the monitor, and Nuno saying, can you take 5K out the side fields? And I can't. That's every weekend for me, and I don't need to relive that through other people's eyes. So, but no, I'm very pleased that I'm going to get to see Extreme, because I think in the realm of melodic hard rock, they're probably about the only band that's still out there doing it. And certainly Nuno Betancourt has sort of fallen into the sort of Eddie Van Halen slot to some degree, because, we lost Eddie Van Halen a number of years ago. And he was the pioneer of melodic hard rock and memorable solos and playing guitar that services the song and all that kind of stuff. But like Extreme had a little bit of a renaissance, and he's kind of like been the default fallback person, if you will.
I agree with that. That makes sense. And I do think that you're right. I think there has been that Extreme has become re-popular, partially because of Jimmy Fallon and Jack Black.
Yeah. And also that they've had they've got a new album out called 6, which we have spoken about. And I think it was a CD of the week a little while ago. But yeah, I'm very excited to see Extreme.
Well, I'm very excited for you, Tim, and I hope you enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much. So, do you have any music news for us?
One that I kind of sent Tim a little thing about, but we didn't get into it because it was from the Daily Mail, and we didn't want to click into that headline.
No.
But with that being said, this is from entrepreneur.com, so it's not a British tabloid mail. But Katy Perry has sold her catalog for hundreds of millions, which is more than what Justin Bieber and Bob Dylan sold theirs for. It actually comes up to $225 million to the British-based Litmus Music Company. I don't know much about them, but that's who they sold it to. And basically, apparently, this is becoming, I think, common practice. And Tim made a good point about how the money is hot right now. Legends, like we talked about, I think we talked about when Bruce Springsteen did it. We know Bob Dylan did it. Part of the BBC sold the master recording royalties and publishing rights to all 5 of her albums, which were previously owned by Capitol Records, to the British-based Litmus Music, a subsidiary of Carlyle Group. I think I said that right.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, basically they're going to have all the rights to all of her music going forward for her previous 5 albums. I didn't find out if that means any more. Like, you know what I mean? When she does more albums going forward, I think that she'd have to resell them because it specifically says the 5 albums that already exist.
Yeah, I think I read the article. I didn't read it on the Daily Mail. I read it somewhere else. But it just covers her existing catalog. I think it's clever because, like I said, the market is hot for that right now. People want to be buying up these discographies. And those 5 albums have all the classic Katy Perry songs that you would recognize. All the ones that were the massive hits are on those 5 albums. Anything past that, any of her newer stuff, I'm not really into it. It doesn't seem to get the same kind of traction. So she's kind of cashing in now while the money's available. And I think she's also come to the conclusion that there's not a lot of money to be made from having a music catalog. Because as we know, these streaming services don't pay a great deal. And yes, you get into licensing for films and licensing for TV shows and all this kind of stuff. But I'd imagine she or her people have done a calculation to see how much money they're going to make off that over her lifetime. And it's probably easier just to cash in now. Yeah. Because, I mean, she does American Idol. She has a footwear company, and she does clothes, and she does all different stuff that probably make a lot more money than that music catalog is making right now.
So for those who don't know, the 5 albums were One for the Boys in 2008, Teenage Dream in 2010, Prism in 2013, Witness in 2017, and then Smile in 2020. She has had 9 #1 hits on those albums, and she became the first female artist to score 5 consecutive #1 singles off the same album, Teenage Dream, which I know is one that Tim prefers. So
yeah, Teenage Dream is her best album by far.
I agree.
And also One of the Boys is very good too.
Yeah, she used to have a very interesting, if you've never seen the background, Katie Hudson, she has a very, go on YouTube and just watch her old stuff. It's very interesting to see how fame took her and how she became this international superstar. But when you look at her in her original, she was very much the girl with her guitar on stage.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, I'm sorry, you carry on.
I was going to say, I think One for the Boys shows that. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and that album is sort of an extension of somebody standing there playing guitar.
Wow, we're so smart, Tim, an extension of someone standing there playing.
Well, no, it's, the songs on One of the Boys could all be played on an acoustic guitar. Yeah. It's really a band album. It was I think the person who produced it, played all the instruments as well. Mm-hmm. And all of those songs, you could just stand on a stage and play on an acoustic guitar, and all of them would work.
It was just funny the way you said it. I don't know why it made me laugh. But anyway, moving along. So that's the music news I had. And I think Tim has a play off of what we did the other day, where we said 10 things we hate. Now we're going to say 10 things we like.
Yes. So the last episode, I was going on this Twitter trend of 10 things that you dislike that other people like. And then there was a follow-up to that, where it was 10 things that you like. So I've got my list, and then Joy's going to go through her list. So I'm going to do my list first. So I think some of these would be of absolutely no surprise to anyone. And it's not an exhaustive list of all the things you like in your life. They're just the 10 things that come to the top of your head when you think about it.
Yes.
Okay. So right at the very top of the tree, we have Knight Rider.
Shocking.
Yeah, my favorite television program of all time that I watch every single week.
Okay.
Under that, I've got playing guitar and playing gigs.
Another shocker.
I like doing that. And then the third one is cats.
Just all cats, specific cats, just cats in life?
Well, I'm not really a dog person. I mean, I like all cats, but certainly if I see a cat in the street or you're in someone's house and they have a cat, I always gravitate towards the cat.
That's fair.
Because I like cats. All right. The next one I have is eating out for lunch every workday.
Mostly because you've constructed a weird system where you get free lunch all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got that too, but we did a household calculation of how much it would cost to eat out every day. And what I do is I typically make my work lunch last 2 days. So like today, I went to the chain restaurant Roots. And Roots is one of these restaurants where you get a big bowl, like a big bowl, and then they put all different stuff in it. And it's expensive. It's about $14 for this bowl. But you cut that thing in half the last 2 days, it's not too bad.
And those mushrooms, I don't know if you get the mushrooms on your tin, but I dream of those mushrooms at Roots. They were so good.
Yeah, my one today had barbecue tofu in it. It was actually really good.
I had that one before. When they first opened, they had a chef who did not know how to cook tofu. So I banished them for about 2 months. And then Tim convinced me to go back, and I went back, and it was very good.
Yeah. So that was my lunch today. And that's what I like to do every day.
All right. Fair.
Okay. The next one is unsweetened iced tea.
I feel like that's just to be like a conspiracy.
Well,
you're British.
I stopped drinking soda, fizzy drinks, whatever you want to call it, when I stopped eating meat. And now the only reason that I stopped drinking them is they sort of messed up my insides a little bit. And I don't know, I should cut this out. So I cut it out, and I haven't drunk soda, full sugar or diet since. So my default position with drinks in a restaurant is unsweetened tea. And actually, I really like it.
See, Charlie doesn't drink. He prefers unsweetened tea, but funny story. So we were trying to get Charlie away from soda and different things and just, making better choices as you do as you get older. And Charlie said, I just want plain tea because he doesn't like sweet tea. And I don't drink. Tim knows I generally drink seltzer waters if I'm drinking like something from the fridge. Otherwise, it's tap water or coffee. And so Charlie was like, I want regular tea. And I said, so you want black tea? And he was like, no, I want regular tea. Bless his heart. He did not know regular tea was black tea. No. He thought that was something separate, like green tea. And we had a whole argument of him going back and forth going, I want regular tea. And I was like, he's like, how do I get regular tea? I was like, it's called black tea. Look for black tea at the store. There you go. Anyway, so he wouldn't be in your camp, Tim. He likes the unsweetened kind.
Well, there we are. Well, next time I go through the McDonald's drive-thru, I will get him a container of unsweetened tea.
Fair enough. All right, what's next on your list?
The next one is living in the USA.
I don't know. Sometimes I don't like that very much anymore.
Well, it was my decision to come here. It was my decision to apply for a green card, and it was my decision to become a citizen. And I stand by that decision because I like living here.
I mean, you chose it. You like it. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and if I didn't like it, I'll go back to England. But I feel a lot more settled here. I feel a lot more comfortable here. And
how does that work? Can you just go back, or would you have to reapply for citizenship?
No, I still have a UK passport. In the eyes of the UK government, I'm a dual citizen. The US government doesn't recognize dual citizenship. I could reapply for my UK passport and move back if I wanted to. But I have no desire to do so. As a US citizen, I'm liable to pay the US government on any worldwide income taxes.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. Huh. So if I went to live back in England permanently, I'd probably have to rescind my US citizenship because I'd have to declare my UK income on my US tax return.
And you're already paying enough taxes if you're in the UK. You don't want to have to do US as well.
Exactly. I don't know what that looks like, and I've never looked into it because I have no intention of ever returning to live there.
Fair enough. What's next?
Compact discs.
Shocking.
Yeah, I mean, people are into this vinyl, and that's fine. People like that, the tactile feel, the collecting aspect. Some people like the sound of it, all that stuff, and that's fine. If that's what you're into, it's great. But it's expensive, it's unreliable, and there's a reason that they got phased out in favor of compact discs. And the good thing about CDs is that even new ones are reasonably cheap. Though the prices have gone up a little bit recently, but not the same amount as vinyl. But as we know, used, they're absolute peanuts.
I mean, to be fair, inflation's hit everything else, so it's not surprising that it's hit the compact disc as well.
Exactly. I mean, I'm talking about they go up $1 or $2, whereas like vinyl records were $19.99 and now they're $50 or something stupid.
And if you blink, there'll be $5 tacked on next week.
Exactly. But no, I like the CD. The other thing that's great about CDs, if you buy them used, 99 times out of 100, they always work. Even if they're really scuffed or scratched, the error correction in your CD player normally work through it, and they nearly always play. I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of CDs I've purchased, used or new, that didn't play.
That's a very reasonable and thoughtful statement, Tim. It makes sense.
And plus, as I said before, I used to have a huge CD collection, which I stupidly sold. And I'm enjoying the process of repurchasing some of the items. And in fact, only the other day, I was thinking, I used to have that great album, the 2002 live concerts from Buckingham Palace, featuring Brian May playing the national anthem on the roof as one of the songs. And
what
I
a
thought,
specific thing for you to think.
Yeah. And then I thought, do you know what? I wonder if I can get that. And I went on eBay, and Declutter had it for like $3.97 plus shipping. And I was like, yep, I'm going to get me one of them.
When you said and plus, for some reason, my brain, that's why I started laughing, and you were just looking at me. I was like, you were going to be like, if you need a coaster, something stupid. So you went a different direction with it. But anyway.
Yeah. And I also received today a copy of the Beards album, Beards. And I've been buying, they're incredibly rare because they weren't on a label, and they were just like sold at merch tables and stuff like that. I've got one album of theirs already. And then I've got this one that came today. And I think I have one more coming. But the one that came today was extra special because they're an Australian band and it came direct from Australia. I was very pleased.
Well, now we know. All right. What's next, Tim?
The next one, again, not a massive shocker. WWF Wrestling from 1985 to 1992.
Very on brand, this list is for you.
Yeah, and I mean, in fact, as Joy can see, I'm wearing a Rowdy Roddy Piper T-shirt as I'm recording this.
I would not know what that T-shirt was.
No.
But I'll take his word for it. I don't know. It says Hot Rod with an exclamation point.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I used to love it when I was a kid, and then we got Peacock so I could watch it, but I found the exact era I liked. After 93, a lot of the characters went off to a different wrestling promotion, and prior to 85, it wasn't really what it started out as. So that era, 85 to 92, is classic. I'm watching everything that's on Peacock from that era, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I've got to the bit where there's a big build up to WrestleMania 3, and it's incredibly exciting.
I swear everything Tim ever does or says is very specific. Like he has like to the dates of when things like just very specific person, Tim. Anyway, I guess it's all about the details.
Exactly. Well, the next one on my list, again, would be of no surprise to anyone, and that would be Brian May.
I mean, it was only a matter of time, really.
Yeah, the man, his music, the things that's important to him, the complete package, really, I like when it comes to Brian May.
As I've said many times, I've never met a person who's literally done everything, but I know of his existence, and that's him. Like, I've never met someone that, like, you name one thing and people will name, like, 74 other things he's done.
Yeah, because you think, oh, well, he's a rock star and he plays guitar. And it's, oh, did you know he built his primary guitar? And they're like, no. Do you know he saves animals? And you're like, no. Do you know he's an astrophysicist? And you're like, no. Do you know his paper on deep space pulsars is used by NASA? And they're like, no.
No.
Oh, did you know he has a stereophonic publishing company that does stereophonic books? And they're like, no.
It just keeps going. And he has perfect hair.
Well, it's gone white.
Still perfectly intact, Tim.
Well,
I think he looks cool with the white. It's distinguished.
That's true. Do you know who else has done that recently? Steve Lukather, fabled session guitarist from Toto. He used to dye his hair black, and I saw some pictures of him recently because he plays with Ringo Starr in Ringo Starr's All-Star Band. And I was like, what's happening with Luke's hair? And then I saw an interview with him, and he's an incredibly funny guy, down-to-earth guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, he said, I'm 60 years old now. He said, who am I trying to impress? He said, I just stopped dyeing it.
I mean, save some money.
Yeah.
That boy. Hey, I don't know. I think people look kind of cool when their hair goes white. It's very, like, silver foxy.
Well, I'll remember that comment because mine's going whiter by the week.
Next week when Tim comes in, we'll just be like, okay, he's got 74 more white hairs. Charlie's been going white since he was like 18. I don't know what his hairstyle is.
This is all in the last 10 years. I've got pictures of before, just when I moved here, and my hair was a beautiful color. And as the years have rolled on, it's getting more silver and more white.
Well, knock on wood, I'm very lucky. I have very thick. I probably 7 people could use my hair, and they would have a full head of hair. There's enough hair on my head that and it hasn't turned white yet, so I'm doing okay.
There we are. Well, that's good.
Not that that matters to anyone. All right, Tim, what's next on your list?
Well, the next one I have is traveling and tourist attractions.
Yes.
Now, I do love to travel. I haven't traveled as much since I lived here, to be honest with you. When I lived in England, I traveled a lot more because Europe was a lot easier to get to. And plus, in the last few years, all my destinations were coming to the United States, and now I live here. And if we go back to point number 5 or whatever it is, I enjoy living in the USA, so I don't need to come here to visit because I live here.
I'm still convinced that the United States, each state is basically the equivalent of a European country at this point.
Yeah, more or less, give or take.
With the independent governments, do you know what I mean, Tim? Yes, we're overseen by a whole body, but like looking at it, that's the way it kind of comes off to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't quote me on the internet. I'm not 100% sure on that theory.
Yeah, don't come to this podcast for your civics advice.
Or really any advice. Unless it's what song you should listen to next week.
There we are. Well, as I said, I do love traveling. I do love tourist attractions. And when I say tourist attractions, I should say the cheesier tourist trap type attractions, the better.
Ball, string or something.
I just love that. Any like you go to a resort town, like Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge are close to here, which is like going to the beach without a beach, but there's mountains. It's the same sort of idea.
What a great way to describe it.
Whether it will be the Dolly Parton Pirate Dinner Show, whether it be the Dolly Parton Stampede, whether it be
or just walking down the street, the ball with the water on it that everybody wants to touch.
Yeah, I just love that stuff. I really, really like it.
Fair. I agree with you on that. It's fun. That's all it is. It's just fun.
Exactly. I'm not a beach person, really. I just like cheesy tourist attractions. I find them very entertaining. And then this was cheeky. I had 11 on here and nobody noticed. But number 11 was podcasting with you.
I knew that was on there, but I didn't count. Dang, I should have counted because I was like, should I put that at the end? And then I was like, no, I'm at 10 and Tim already used it. I should have went for 11. Well, podcasting is very fun, even though some days me and Tim say something. I listen back and I'm like, did I really just say that? The one episode where I spent a very long time discussing if Peter Gabriel was okay to the point of ad nauseum. The Tim's like, I don't know, Joy. I didn't call him yesterday. It's very fun, though. We enjoy it.
Exactly.
All right, so I guess my list is next. I was going to put that on there, but I ran out of lists, and now I'm going to be like, that's 11 for me as well. All right, so I'm not doing this in any particular order. So my first one is coffee, because I am a big coffee drinker. As I already stated, that's not shocking to anyone, and I probably spend way too much money on it. Now, this is a very specific thing, Tim, but I do like this a lot. The smell of fresh cut grass.
Yeah, it does have an appeal to it, that smell. And when the HOA come around and cut our grass, because I don't do that, and then you come out and you're like, oh yeah, what a beautiful smell of fresh cut grass.
So I think that there's 2 reasons for that. One, apparently that chemical, did you know that they, like when you cut the grass, because grass is basically almost alive, like an animal in a way, that they like, I don't know if it's a pheromone or some type of scent. That's basically them screaming.
Yeah, I've heard
the smell
that.
Comes from.
I've heard it's like a distress call almost.
Yeah, so it's not messed up that I like it, but
I mean, there was studies done in the 60s and 70s whether plants are sentient or not.
Well, I think that for me, it kind of goes back to childhood when summer was like, there was summer and you got to sleep in and you woke up at like 10 a.m. and the windows were partially open and you could smell the fresh cut glass come in. And that's where the love of it comes. But it is kind of messed up that it's plants screaming at us for ruining their lives.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a time lapse of like a potted plant and see how much it moves around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've kind of like looked into that because I find it very interesting. And they react to music, Tim, just like we do.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well, that leads me into my next one, which is singing.
Yay! Are you still doing your choir?
My choir kind of shut down. I need to find another one. Not enough people were interested in it this year, but they're
Well,
talking about revamping it in spring.
that's a shame. Well, hopefully you can find something in the spring, because I do know you love to sing.
I do love to sing. And the thing about it is I mean, all things music, but singing, I played other instruments. That was like for those who don't know, I studied it in college. My parents were put through many different choirs, concerts they had to sit through with me singing like advanced pieces like Hated at the Time of War. Like I've done everything and in between, and it's just like my love and my passion. And I love choirs. Sadly, we didn't have a lot of locals. So if someone is in the New River Valley and knows of a choir I can join or would like to join our choir, let me know. The funnest thing I got to do when I was in that choir, though, is when I was in high school, there was a thing where you got to, so there's like all district and all state. And district's kind of like the smaller version. And then the top people from the district got to go to all state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always auditioned. In different years I made it, different years I didn't. There was a girls' choir because there was more people who auditioned that were females. So that was just the best. So they had a female choir and then they had a mixed choir. And depending on where you were, you ended up in one of those. So I've been in both of those. But it was kind of cool because they would always give you like some type of Latin piece to sing. And when you went to all state, you even had to do like you had to sight read music. Mm-hmm. So that was really fun. So you had to like you would know the piece ahead of time. So like let's say it was Kyrie Eleison, one of those different versions that's been done 1,000 times, not the version from the band in the 80s, mm-hmm. but some Latin version of it. And so I had done that all through high school, loved it. It was one of my favorite things to go do. And it was exhausting because you'd spend like, I don't know, a week straight learning this piece and then performing it. But so they were looking for judges locally in the area, and they went to our choir director because he worked with the schools doing music too. And I get to judge the students who came and did it. And that was the funnest. Honestly, that was one of the funnest parts of the choir. There you go. And it all came full circle. It was very fun. And it was kind of nice to be on the other side. It's just fun though. And if you are a high school student who loves to sing, I highly, highly, highly suggest you try out for stuff, because even if you don't make it, just the trying out part it's fun, and it teaches you something you didn't even know. There's plenty of pieces that I tried out for and didn't get to. I remember when I first moved back, and I mean, I had graduated school. I had went to school for musical theater. I did all these things, and I auditioned for the Music Man. That was like a local thing. Tim didn't get into anything. Didn't even get into the choir. But then 3 weeks later, I auditioned for another show and got in. You never know.
Yeah, you just never know how it's going to turn out.
It could be that you're just not their cup of tea that day. But keep auditioning, people.
There we are.
All right. So my next one is really good breakfast food. I love really good breakfast food. Like if I could have like eggs, I love Morningstar sausage, which Tim knows is the veggie sausage is my favorite. The Impossible sausage is very good. I like the spicy ones. Like some sauteed mushrooms, like a big plate of really good breakfast food is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like you go to IHOP and have a stack of pancakes and scrambled eggs and all that kind of stuff. That is good stuff. And I used to love, though I haven't had one for years, but I used to like in McDonald's, they not the big breakfast. They did one called the bigger breakfast.
Did they?
Yeah, and it was like a big breakfast, but it had more stuff in it. And I think it had the most calories of any fast food item or something. It was something like 2,500 calories or something stupid like that.
So you were risking a heart attack every time you ate it, but it was worth it.
Yeah, like when I'd come here to visit, I mean, it's not that you eat every day, but I'd come here to visit, and then we'd be like in Vegas or something, and then you'd for your brunch, you'd go to McDonald's and have the bigger breakfast. I don't know, it just made me feel alive.
And see, my favorite thing from McDonald's for breakfast is they have and I get the meat. I always put the meat on the side and then give it to my dog most of the time. But they have a bagel, and it has like a bechamel sauce on it, and then it's like egg, and that's what I get. I love that. I don't know why, but I will say a good breakfast, even if it's like eggs. And I like when you go to certain European countries, when they have because they always have those really big, breakfast buffets at the hotel. It's like all the meats and the cheeses is always what it is. I love that.
Yeah, the classic, like what they call continental breakfast.
Yes. So anyway, a good breakfast. My next one is just animals because I love all animals.
Mm-hmm.
All animals. I did put my job on there, even though it frustrates me to the point of no return, as me and Tim, but I do love my job. I love working in HR. I find it very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is sleeping. I mostly said that in lieu of what I said yesterday, day before yesterday. Long walks. So, like, I'm not into sports. I don't like exercise. Me and Tim are not going to be going to play soccer anytime soon. Neither of us are. Or football, depending on where you are. But I do like a good long walk.
Yeah, and I've really got into the long walks recently. I did a shorter walk this evening because I wanted to be back in time to do this recording. But most days now, I'm walking for about 2.5 miles. So I walk from my house right the way through downtown and Brown and back, and it's about 2.5 miles. And I don't know, you put the headphones on, you put some good tunes on there. I don't know, it's good. I was documenting it every day with like a daily walking chronicle. And then really I ran out of pictures of things to take, you know.
There's a limited amount of things, but I just like it. And I like to take my dog because then he gets his exercise in. And you never know what you're going to see. Like I see weird stuff occasionally, but mostly it's just a way to clear your mind and kind of like, you know, reset. Now, the next one is a very specific thing, but it's Mexican food.
Mexican food is delicious.
If you like, and I will eat all of the chips and salsa before my food comes. And then I'm going to get like a big plate of something. Like I do eat seafood still, so I love seafood. So I like, I do like fish tacos. I love like veggie fajitas. Like I love all things Mexican food.
Yeah, Mexican food is very delicious. There's a restaurant near here called El Bronco.
It's my favorite.
Which is fabulous. And whenever you go there at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, the car park is always full. And if the car park's full, you just can't get in there.
But if you do go and you can get a spot, they're very quick still. Like your food comes so quickly, even when they're super busy there. Oh,
yeah. The service is amazing in there. And it's really good and it's fresh and it's delicious. And it's not super expensive either.
No, and they have like lunch. Anyway, Mexican food.
Yeah.
So, now, you know, I like breakfast food and I like Mexican food. I know everybody was super worried to know that. And the last one is Halloween. Very on brand for the time, but I love Halloween. I've already put up some Halloween decorations, just minimal little things. I'll probably add more as time goes on, but I enjoy, as Tim is very aware, me and Charlie take our costumes a little too seriously every year and go a little extreme.
See, I'm sort of take it or leave it with Halloween because it was not a feature growing up and it was a thing that came in later. So I've never dressed up for Halloween. It's fun, but it's not part of my makeup, if you will.
So that is something I've researched. I guess in the UK, like Halloween's not as big of a deal as it is in America, right?
No, because traditionally you would have the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. And it was firework night. And people would have the thing called Penny for the Guy, where you would have an effigy of Guy Fawkes that you would effectively beg for money for on the street. And then on the 5th of November, you'd light fireworks and then you'd burn the effigy of Guy Fawkes because he was a chap who tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament.
There you go. I mean, that sounds as fun as putting on cool costumes and getting candy.
There you go.
I'll take Halloween. Thank you. And that's the end of my list.
Beautiful. Well, there we go. So anyway, I hope we reset from the things we didn't like to the things that we do like, and it sort of balanced itself out.
Somebody's going to like torture us, Tim, and you're going to start getting like cucumbers in the mail, and I'm just going to start getting olives sent to us periodically, and my olive will be wrapped in styrofoam.
I was about to say that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, because people care enough to do that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, there we are.
It's my topic.
Yes, so it's your turn to pick the topic. I don't know what your topic is, so Joy, over to you.
So I have a very specific topic, and this was a request from some friends who attended a recent music festival in our area. So Tim, are you familiar with the Blue Ridge Rock Festival that just happened a few weeks ago?
Yes, and I read all the news reports about it.
Well, I have firsthand accounts. So the episode is about music festivals and stuff that's happened and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for those who don't know, there was a music festival that happened local to me and Tim on September 9th. And so it's a 4-day music festival. And basically, it was supposedly canceled due to severe weather, quote unquote. There was a lot of bad weather. There's torrential downpours. Hurricane came in, just all bad timing, right? But there's also a little bit of a hint that maybe that's not what caused the cancellation. Have you heard the conspiracy theories, Tim?
I have. I've heard that some of the people working at the site all walked off the site because the sanitation was poor and the food was poor and there was no showers and all kinds of stuff.
So, and this is from, I had two friends who went, two of my best friends went with a couple of other friends, and they had rented a campsite. They had bought tickets for all 3 days. And basically, organizers pretty much just shared with them that what happened was all of the people working there walked off. So Slipknot had their concert on the first day, and Slipknot actually paid to feed all of the staff because there was no food there. They brought in their own catering. And so, because they were like, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, it's going to be, and I mean, I'm not like big into Slipknot or anything, but I mean, they're going to take care of their crew because they know better. But supposedly what happened is everybody walked off in protest because there was no proper place for them to use the restroom, no place for them to stay that had good shelter. There was no food. And so they all just basically went on strike, even though they're not union, you know. And so and they were trying, so Blue Ridge was trying to scramble and find new staff members, and they couldn't. So they ultimately ended up blaming the weather.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I did some digging on the Facebooks and stuff. And this is not the first year that they've had problems, Tim. It goes back like 3 or 4 years with different issues. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think I've heard rumors that it hasn't been good for some time.
Well, and people keep saying like, and they talk about don't bring, put your money into it. There's been like little hits, and I think this was the final one that put the kibosh on it. And because there was like a lot of bands, I don't know all the bands that were scheduled, but it's very heavy rock bands like Shentel, Slipknot, those type bands. Mm-hmm. A lot of them haven't been in concert anywhere else. I read like people were flying from Australia to go to this festival. Like it was a huge festival, and a lot of people lost a lot of money.
It sounds like the Southwest Virginia equivalent of the Fyre Festival.
It does. And so here's where it's even funnier. So they said they had, several different shortcomings, and previous years have been bad. But currently, they basically, hold on, guys, my phone was going off. I didn't want you guys to hear my ringtone. That would be nothing. But anyway, they actually had bands come in and do like Shinedown, just come in and do an impromptu acoustic show to calm people down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like they were like, yeah, I don't even know how they got them to do that. But here's where, and then to top it all off, Tim, there's a whole thing about people who went now are all getting sick from two things. One, COVID, because, COVID's on the rise. But two, a parasite was in the water.
Oh, goodness me.
And that my friends were lucky they only drank bottled water. They didn't take anything from the tap. But yeah, most of the people who went now are coming down with like sickness.
It sounds like a bad scene. It really does.
Well, and like rain is like, I swear, and you're going to hear this when we go over quite a few of these. Rain is the downfall of music festivals.
Well, yeah, because there's no shelter because typically it's a field with a stage in it.
And so what happens? Mudslide.
Yes.
Basically, that's what happens. And we'll go into the next one. So there's a few of these that are from the UK, and most of them are either in America or the UK. I try to stay in that realm, Tim, so we're familiar. Glastonbury Festival. You've heard of that one, right? I
have indeed. I've never been to Glastonbury, but I'm very familiar with it.
Well, there is a horrifying picture in front of me that we should save and put on. Make a note we should put on there. So Glastonbury Festival 2005. Were you still in the UK at that time, Tim?
Yeah, I left in February 2011.
So Glastonbury 2005 is one of the music festivals that turned into a mud-filled frenzy. But thankfully, the rough weather didn't shut down the event. Still, it's remembered today is just wet and muddy, with famous photographs of a river. And I'm looking at it, Tim. It's up to their knees. Have you ever heard of trench foot?
No.
Do you know what trench foot is? It's basically like when you walk through so much water that like your skin starts to peel. That would be my worry if you were doing this. Cause like we're gonna have to post these photos, Tim. It says it was a torrential downpour that included flood, power outage, canceled some performances, but locals called it the worst storm in the area in 15 years. But they still were able to have 2 days worth of festivals. And I just need you to see the picture, Tim. Like, this guy is covered head to toe in mud. And all I can think of is there must have been some good drugs at Glastonbury, because there's no way you'd get me to do this.
No, I mean, I suppose you're there and you get a bit of mud on you, then you get caked in mud and you're like, oh, well, I'm here now.
This guy is literally swimming in it, Tim. You're not getting me to do that. I want to put this picture up as an example, since we were talking about mud. And, you know, there's plenty of them that all get down. But, like, I don't know. I just don't think that there's an artist in the world that I'd be willing to sit through that for.
No.
Just, maybe it's just me. I don't know. So now we're going to another one. So anyway, it's called the Hudson Project. So it's in New York, like Hudson, New York, 2014. It's now known as the Mudson Project. So it was an electronic music festival. The final day of the festival was called off because the rain wouldn't let up. And there's a famous clip of water swallowing campers' tents. So like, there's like, I guess, and that's the other thing is, it's like you said, it's always in the middle of nowheres. And most of the time people are camping out. So there's no real place for you to go. And so there's a video, and we'll have to post this as well. And literally, it's just going down and just pulling these people's tents, and the river's just taking them away.
Oh, dear.
I just don't know, Tim. Is there any band you'd be willing to rough it for that for? Because I just don't think there is.
At this point, I don't think there is, to be honest with you. I mean, if somehow Freddie Mercury and John Deacon, well, one decided to return to music and one came back from the grave, I might be interested in that. But outside of that, no.
Yeah. I just can't think of anything that I feel like I'd want to do this for. And so this one says that they were stuck for 12 hours after the thing was canceled, and attendees were stuck on site with food and water shortages for up to 12 hours until they got rescued.
Yeah, I mean, that's rough. I mean, I'm lucky. All the festivals I've ever been to, I've played at as well. And I can't remember it raining, or if it did rain, it was not too bad.
Well, the reason I kind of thought about this was the Blue Ridge Rock Festival. But then also, did you see the stuff about Burning Man? Not that that's a music festival, but did you see anything in the headlines about it, Tim?
Yeah, that got washed out. And then these weird, like, desert creatures all started sprouting out the sand and stuff like that.
There was things of people making up rumors that somebody tested positive for like Ebola or something. But the irony of it was, Tim, so here's how this started. So they were trying to get to, and I know Burning Man, there's musicians there. We're going to pretend like it's music, because I just thought it was funny to watch a bunch of rich elitists who think they're super cool in the desert. Because that's the thing, though, Tim, is Burning Man used to be a bunch of hippies, and now it's like rich elitists from California saying, I went to Burning Man, right?
Yeah.
And so there's only one road to and from the desert. I don't know if you knew that or not, Tim, but a bunch of climate activists were protesting, and they were trying to keep them from going because I guess, it destroys that area every year. Mm-hmm. And so the irony is what caused this catastrophic storm, Tim? Probably climate change. And so it came back full force. But for those who don't know, there was torrential downpours. There was mudslides. They ran out of food. They couldn't get people out. I saw a video of people just like jumping in the back of a truck, and like people driving, trying to get out, and the truck gets stuck. Like they couldn't go anywhere. And they were stuck there for a good, 3-4 days. And that sounds terrible to begin with. Because I don't know about you, Tim, but the last people I want to be stuck with for 3 to 4 days are probably the people at Burning Man.
Well, I'm sure it's fine for the duration of Burning Man if you with people and you're enjoying the music and enjoying the events. But when the whole thing comes crashing down and all the things you want to see and do are not there, yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, I just don't think that's one I want to do. I don't know. It would be fun for a short time, and then the fun would be gone. But anyway, so we're going to talk about one, Tim, that I know you're familiar with. This is Woodstock, 1999 version.
Oh, is this the one with Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit and all that kind of stuff? Because I saw a documentary about that.
So basically, they tried to remake what, I don't know. I don't even know how they would. Korn, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine. I think Metallica was there, Insane Clown Posse, things like that. So basically, Woodstock 99 from the start was trying to redo the 1969 version. And then there was, I guess, a 1994 anniversary edition Woodstock. I've never really heard much about it, but I guess it existed. But basically, it became, things caught on fire. There was a blood slut. It just got out of hand. So it was like Tim said, Metallica, Korn, Limp Bizkit, politically charged, Rage Against the Machine. And for some reason, they didn't have good porta potties set up. They didn't have running water the way they were supposed to. Insane Clown Posse went on stage and was tossing $100 bills into the audience, and people were fighting over that. It caused a stampede. People were getting fake armbands to come in and pretend like they bought tickets when they didn't. So they ended up with way too many people there. There were sadly people who said that they were assaulted. We won't go into detail about that. And then at one point, the stage literally caught fire.
Yeah, so what happened is that rather than keep having this festival on a farmer's field, which is normally where most of these festivals take place. Which is
where the original Woodstock was.
Yeah, or some kind of like grassing. They made the mistake of making Woodstock 99. It was on like a disused army base where there's like asphalt and concrete everywhere. So it was very hot that day. So, of course, that's just going to reflect that heat and amplify it. Like you say, the water, there was like 4 water spouts for 200,000 people or something. And they were selling bottled water because it was all sponsorship and all this stuff. And the bottled water was like $4 a bottle or something like that. And people just got hungry. They got thirsty. They got frustrated. And there was like widespread looting and widespread setting things on fire. And it was a rough scene.
So here's where it gets kind of weird, and this is what I was getting into. So apparently, put all the things me and Tim just put together, and when the Red Hot Chili Peppers did a cover of Jimi Hendrix's Fire, they thought that was a call for actual flames, and people just started lighting things on fire. And they said there was also the area Tim's talking about, the military base, was a former nuclear weapon storage site.
Goodness me.
And so people were breaking into different things that were old military related things. Of course, there was tons of people drunk, people on narcotics, and the final hours were referred to for people that were trying to get it shut down as Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, they said there is a documentary on YouTube about it, and I've seen it, and it is a rough scene. I'm glad was nowhere near that.
I think it's funny that the Insane Clown Posse was tossing $100 bills into the audience for people to fight over.
Yeah, that sounds like something that ICP would do.
It does. What are your thoughts on ICP? Not to insult anybody if you're into it, but it's a no for me.
It's a no. I mean, it's shock rock, basically. They're building on what Alice Cooper did. They're building on, a lot of those kind of very theatrical type of bands, but they're coming at it from a kind of like rap rock type perspective. Really, it's nothing new in so much they're trying to shock people with the theater aspect of it. The music itself, I mean, it's not really my favorite at all. It's not really the kind of thing I would listen to. But like I said, if you just step back and look at it, it's like, they're just building on shock rock music and the theater of that.
But see, for me, it's not even just that the fact that they're doing the show. I just don't think the music is very good. Like at its core, I just don't care for it.
It's kind of like Limp Bizkit rap rock type stuff, which is not anything I would really ever listen to.
It's just not for me, no. So anyway, moving along. So that's kind of one of the most famous ones. And I know people have seen pictures of that one. And this one's in England. It says the Island of Wight, right? Say it, Tim. I don't know.
It's the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Wight Festival.
I thought that was
Yeah, the
Go
Isle
ahead.
of Wight being an island at the south of England, very famously a holiday destination. And fun fact about the Isle of Wight, it's the only to get to the Isle of Wight, you can go on a car ferry, but the only commercial hovercraft operation operating in the world operates between the mainland and the Isle of Wight, hover speed and hover travel.
Well, you just hit it on something about the way you get there, cars, water, ferry thing. So what we're going to talk about is in 2012, there was a festival there that featured Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Pearl Jam, and Bruce Springsteen. But basically, there was a huge flood that hit in the summer of 2012. And so it did impede. So basically, you had to get on the ferry to get over there. Like Tim's saying, you drive your car up onto the little boat, and then the ferry carries you over. Well, whenever this happened, people got stuck on the ferries in their boat, and there was 350 cars between the ferries and the mud that were stuck.
Oh,
And they couldn't get through, resulting in a 5-mile jam that led for 10 hours of people having to sit in their vehicle.
goodness me.
And basically, they were just thankfully they were able to dock the boat, so like the boats were just out there kind of floating around. They said, but fine musically, I guess they were able to go. People who made it and got to get there and see it and weren't stuck going back and forth did get to see Tom Petty, Pearl Jam, and Bruce Springsteen. But God, I don't even know what I would do if I were stuck for 10 hours on a ferry in my car.
I've been stuck for a few hours on a ferry between France and England with that thing bobbing around, and I felt the worst I've ever felt in my life.
I can't even begin. All right. Well, England's on here a few times. Sorry, our England friends. You guys are, I feel like music festivals are a bigger thing in the UK than they are in America.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, certainly a lot of that stuff started in the UK.
I mean, Fyre Festival was American based, and that's probably the biggest epitome of for those who don't know, did you watch the Fyre Festival documentary, Tim? We'll just get into that. I don't know.
I didn't. I know about it and I've looked into it, but no, I didn't see the documentary.
So basically, for those who don't know, Fyre Festival, it's spelled Fyre, was this festival that was supposed to take place in April and May of 2017. It was by a con artist named Billy McFarlane and rapper Ja Rule, which I find funny. Like Ja Rule, of all people, just comes out of the woodworks to do this festival. And they spent a lot of time like promoting it. So they would hire like these influencers on the internet or models or the Kardashians and shoot them down to these islands that they claimed was one of Pablo Escobar's old islands, which is not true at all. But anyway, and like take pictures like with the pigs in the ocean and things like that to advertise for it. And he supposedly was so they said Kendall Jenner, was one of the most big known names from the Kardashians that they were flying down there. And they made like a logo and they did events and they basically put all this out there saying they had this whole festival set up on what was going to be Pablo Escobar's old island. They didn't. None of it was real. It kind of like, do you remember when we did that episode where I talked about the Backstreet Boys, Tim, and we talked about their owner, how he got in trouble because he said he had an air balloon when he didn't have it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that episode is what taught me this. You are not allowed to put out and sell for something you don't already have. That's considered a con. Like that key is important. So if you guys are listening to this and you have a plan on something you want to do in the future, don't sell tickets or make people buy it. Did you know that, like specifically, that's how it works, Tim? Because I didn't.
Yeah, it's just a classic con.
Did I not know what a classic con was? Like, I guess I just didn't get, like, that's the big thing that will get you in trouble, though. It's like, so anyway, he said that it was Pablo Escobar's old island. It wasn't. And then they, like, tried to throw the festival together. People kept backing out. Money wasn't there. They were trying to get different people to invest. And then when people finally got there, everybody arrived, and they basically were in concentration camps. Yeah, and there was no festival.
They had nothing. There was no. I don't think there was any bands, or there was like some dude with turntables in a DJ tent, and then they had like FEMA tents and like school lunch food.
Yeah, it was like they fed them like cheese sandwiches and foam containers. Like that was the famous picture. Now, mind you, the cost of a ticket was anywhere from like $500 to like $3,000, depending on which package these people paid for. So this was a very expensive ticket that was sent to them. There was also no cell phone service, no internet service. Once again, no place for restrooms, no running water. And it was promoted as a cashless event. So if there's no internet, Tim, how are you going to pay for anything?
Well, you can have things like you can have like satellite phones
Oh no,
authenticating.
but apparently that left a lot of people stranded because they didn't bring any cash with them. And like, there was no, like, I mean, I guess you're right. I didn't really think about like SpaceX at the time.
Well, because I mean, like, iridium satellite phones are a thing, and they're used by a lot of like industries who work in harsh environments where there's no connectivity. And I've actually been configuring and scoping out satellite phones that work, so I know all about this. So they're incredibly expensive to use, but they have a thing where they sell a device or a number of devices that you can have in those kind of environments to get very limited internet connectivity using iridium satellites.
Yeah, but my thing is, Tim, is do you really think the people from Fyre Festival that were going to go to a concert promoted by the Kardashians and Ja Rule think they need that with them?
No, but you were talking about how would a cashless thing do with authorizations? There is infrastructure you could build out that would do that, but given the fact they're putting people in FEMA tents and giving them school lunch food, they wouldn't have thought of that.
I'm just saying. And then for those who don't know, there was a whole subset of lawsuit. There's 150 plaintiffs. They basically did a class action lawsuit, fraud, breach of contract. I guess it's the covenant of good faith, Tim. That's the thing that we were talking about, a con. I wonder if that's like, I guess I never really thought, and then negligent misrepresentation. I mean, I know kind of what a con is in a sense of it, but I never really thought about the idea of basically selling a product to somebody that you don't already have. And that's the issue.
I mean, there's a whole culture in Silicon Valley of fake it till you make it. And, you know, I was very interested in that whole Theranos blood testing thing. That really captured my attention. And that's another example of a con where they didn't have the technology, but they were selling that technology. And it's the same as this Fyre Festival. They didn't have a festival, but they're selling tickets to something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. And on top of that, they crowdfunded $200,000 as well. And that, for something that didn't happen. So basically they received money. And then to top it all off, that Billy McFarland, the guy over all of this, the con artist, apparently he tweeted that there was going to be a Fyre Festival too.
I heard about that. Funding. Yeah.
So he says the first 100 tickets will be put on show for $4.99. To prices to increase later. Festival website said the event's targeted for the end of 2024 in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to engage in that.
The thing is like, if you went to the first one, I feel like he's just hoping there'll be somebody stupid who will put their money in, just put their money in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Well, and I guess there was a lot of people trying to saying, hey, this is not real. Don't do your money. But a bunch of young people who saw these influencers going to islands thought that they were going to go party on Pablo Escobar's island.
Yeah.
What's a specific thing to lie about, too? Like Pablo Escobar?
Well, I mean, when you're a con artist, I mean, you dream up ridiculous things.
You make a valid point, and what better to sell? And it sounds like something somebody wouldn't lie about. Why would you lie about that? It's almost like they did themselves a service by lying about it because it seems so stupid that you wouldn't lie about it.
Exactly.
Anyway, so back to England. Since we started on Fyre Fest, I cut away. But there was, in 2012, hey, that's the same year as the other ones. There's something called the Block Festival in London. Have you ever heard of the Block Festival, Tim?
No, I haven't.
Well, I doubt it because it looks like it's hip-hop artist.
Oh, there you are.
Not right up your alley, Tim. But anyway, Snoop Dogg and somebody called Doom alongside DJs and producers like the Flying Lotus and Ricardo, well, whatever that guy's name is. But basically on day one, people arrived at relatively early, waited in line for 2 hours, causing some to jump the barriers. Bars ran out of beer before the clock started 10:30. How many? Okay, here's my first thing, Tim. When do you stop selling alcohol in the UK? Are there laws, like a time that they can stop selling alcohol?
Well, it used to be traditionally your pubs were open from 11 till 11. And then some pubs, like the Red Line in Twickenham, used to have an extension that could go until midnight. And then at some point, 10, 15 years ago, they changed all the laws and pubs could open and close whenever they liked. It's just that the local authority would give them a license depending on whether it was a built-up area, etc. I think there was some concessions where, like in the Docklands area, where a lot of people will be working funny shifts, pubs will be open in the morning to account for people who maybe worked all the way through the night and then wanted to go out for drinks after work. But after these laws changed, the pubs could open and close whenever they wanted to.
Huh. Well, I know in America, final call is usually most states. There is a state by state difference. Generally, it's 2 a.m. After 2 a.m., they make their final call like 1:55, so you have 5 minutes. Anything after that, you can't sell. But I thought this is humorous that we're talking about these severe floodings, fires, whatever. And this festival thought to mention before any of that, Tim, beer ran out at 10:30.
I mean, that's the UK for you. I mean, people like a drink.
Then apparently temps became impossible and unexpectedly crowded early on. Day one, which one social media referred to as the middle of a car crash, shut down early. The second day was eventually canceled outright. And basically what they're saying is we're all completely, absolutely devastated this happened, but this is for the safety of everyone. So basically what happened was because they ran out of beer, people started losing their mind. And there's like a fire. There's people like storming whenever people have you ever seen like when artists are on stage when people try to storm the stage? I guess that happened when Snoop Dogg was on, and they literally had to. And the other thing was the capacity was they were way over capacity. They let in 2,800 people, and I guess that's like almost double the capacity they were supposed to have, which explains why they ran out of beer. Yes. But I just thought this one was funny because I just thought it was funny that all these other people are like, we caught fire. This used to do this. People were dying. And then this one's like, we ran out of beer at 10:30. And it all went downhill from there. That's the most UK thing I've ever heard. All right. So this one it's called Tomorrow World, and it happens in Georgia. Have you ever heard of Tomorrow World?
No.
It's an EDM festival. So basically, it's a 2015 American spinoff of the Belgium festival Tomorrowland. It has EDM DJs that I don't like, David Guetta and some other guy that I don't know how to say his name, as well as appearance from Shaquille O'Neal, which I thought was funny. Like, he's not a musician. I don't know why that's mentioned as a headliner. You can see David Guetta and Shaquille O'Neal
together at last.
I mean, anyway, so it's an 8,000 acre farm, like Tim was saying. Most of these take places in farms. Of course, once again, it turned into a mud pit. So if that's like the ongoing thing, and they had a shuttle that was going back and forth to Atlanta to get people out. Well, apparently the shuttle got stuck with people on it, and they were stuck there for 24 hours.
Oh, dear.
They did try to send in Ubers, but the pricing surged as high as 5.9 times the normal fare. The festival's third day was only open to people who were already on the grounds, although they didn't stop people from trying to brave the weather and broach the gates. Tomorrow World has not come back to the States since, although Belgium has an edition that's scheduled for July. So what would be if not, so if Woodstock says we shouldn't put it on like concrete, and all of these festivals seem to get shut down because of rain, I'm not sure I know what the best location to have a music festival is unless indoors.
Indoors. It would be an arena indoors with local hotels close by.
Maybe we're old, Tim. We still want to sit outside at a music festival
Says
anymore.
me, 48 years old, sitting here.
Somebody's going, of course you would think that 48-year-old man. Oh, Lord. All right. So we got another one. It's always rain, Tim. It's always rain. The greatest rock festival that never waits. So this is called the Powdered Rock Ridge Festival of 1970. Happened in Middlefield, guys. Middlefield, Connecticut. But basically, it's happened to be known for not happening at all. Although a reported 30,000 concert goers showed up ready to take in some music. However, a legal injunction just minutes before the festival started stopped it from happening. There were some of 30,000 people. Some said there were 50,000. Certain things are indisputable. Drugs were plentiful. Clothes were scarce. And singer-songwriter Melanie was the only billed act who actually showed up and played. With the Power to Power Ridge Festival cut off, she performed with a makeshift sound system hooked up to a generator of a Mr. Softy ice cream truck. I don't know who Melanie is, but I'll give her props on that one. I guess there was some type of injunction in the city because they didn't want it to happen. And so they tried to stop it because it's kind of like, you know, how the stories of Woodstock go back in the day where there's people literally walking, all the roads are blocked. Have you ever heard of, I think it's called Stampede 79. It happened in Galax. It was like a whole thing. Hold on. What was that one called? It literally happened like 2 feet from where my parents' house is now. Galax, Virginia. My mom still talks about it because, Stomping 76. That's Stampede 79.
Okay.
I was close. But basically, it was Bonnie Raitt, Earl Scroggers. What was his last name? Scruggs? Whatever that.
Scruggs.
Why can't I say words? But it happened really close to my parents' house, and my mom still says she remembers when it happened. Here's all the artists that went. Oh, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was there. Mm-hmm. Doc and Merle Watson, Hickory Wind, New River Grass Revival, Red, Bright, and Bluegrass, Nashville Bluegrass, Papa. There's like a whole thing. But basically, Bonnie is probably the one everybody knows, and then Earl Scruggs. So anyway, the Osborne brothers were there too. But my mom talks about she remembers it happening because where my parents live at now is right over the border from North Carolina. And she remembers that there was just traffic backed up for like a full day. Mm-hmm. And people were just walking to this concert. And she said that like they couldn't leave their house for probably, she was little, you know what I mean? She wasn't like old enough, like maybe high school at the most. But she said that she still remembers to this day that people were just stopped in the middle of the road, just started walking.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, That's probably the best way to approach it.
I mean, and basically, it says the pricing for getting in, Tim, this will make you be sad about where we sit in America nowadays. $5.50 to $7.50.
Oh, I tell you, push the boat out to the $7 ticket. You're going to get premium seating or premium lawn access or something.
Well, and I think it's kind of cool because I just know my mom just talks about it, and I hear a lot of locals. And they said that it was the U.S. Bicentennial year. That's what it was like a stand for. And I've seen the memorabilia for it. The Stomping 76 is all in like red, white, and blue and that kind of thing. According to Wikipedia, or a website that rhymes like Wikipedia that I might be looking at on my screen right now, it says that there was 100,000 people who went.
Wow.
I mean, if it's only $5.
Oh, there we are.
And yeah, Galax, Virginia. For those who don't know, we do have the Galax is known for the what is the bluegrass, the world's largest
the
bluegrass.
World Fiddlers Convention.
Why can't I think of that? Fiddlers Convention. I grew up there. We tried to actively avoid it. That's probably why I can't think of it. We were not Fiddlers Convention people, Tim. Those of us local, we tried to avoid it like the plague. Because you would have people who would come in from all over the world, literally. I remember there was a newspaper article one time that said this lady in Japan named the road she lived in Galax after the Fiddlers Convention. Like, what?
Yeah, it's a big thing. It's like the Ferrum Folklife Festival. It is a big thing, but as you know, the sound of the banjo is banned in this house, so I'm not going to be going to a Fiddlers Convention anytime soon.
Well, cool fact about this Stompin' 76, Tim, the website still has T-shirts for you to buy.
Well, you know,
posters.
It was a classic event. I mean, you know, this is the USA. We like selling and purchasing merchandise.
Well, what's kind of interesting is the big thing, 3-foot stomping days. Oh, if you bought a ticket for all the days, you paid $12, Tim, altogether.
Wow.
Of the Appalachian Mountain waters, free camping and parking, 100 wooden acres. Yeah, people's yards, according to my mother. I don't know how accurate what that was. I don't know how old Bob was in 1976, but yeah. All right, Tim, here's a question for you before we go into the next one, because the next one's kind of dark. What is your favorite music festival you've ever been to?
Well, the only music festivals I've ever been to are ones I played at myself, and they're all VW Beetle festivals. Probably the time we played at Bug Jam supporting Chaz and Dave, and that's the time I almost had the soda bottle thrown at my head. But that was a very, very interesting and fun festival.
Is that the festival that all your friends in the UK are always going with their VW buses every year?
Yeah, that's the one. And they still, Ian has had that standing gig for literally decades.
Huh. It looks pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Takes place at Santa Pod, which is a drag strip in the UK.
Well, it sounds like they have concrete, then maybe that's why they're still standing.
Yeah, I mean, the drag strip is concrete, but the rest of it's a huge field.
Oh, so if it rained, they're out of luck, too.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a really sad one, but I'm going to have to bring it up because we don't shy away from this stuff. You're aware of the Astro World Festival, right?
Yes, I am.
Sadly, I don't want to get into too much details, but basically what happened was there was an American rapper on stage. His name was Travis Scott. It was held in Houston, Texas, and they had been dealing with crowd control issues. It had started even a day before because he wasn't the first, person to go on the stage. But during Scott's his set, the crowd crushed people. People fell underneath. People got stomped on. And there's some speculation that maybe he amped it up, though he doesn't claim about it. But there was people who passed away. There was also the effect of drugs, alcohol, and all that kind of stuff. 25 people were hospitalized. More than 300 people were treated for injuries, and multiple concert goers documented the incident. So that's what's different about this one because it's so recent. It was on November 5th, 2021. People were posting to social media as it was happening in lag time. So I feel like that's how we know more about this one than others.
Yeah, I don't say I hold that guy responsible, but you have a responsibility if you're playing or certainly fronting a band in that kind of situation to see what's going on. You're in a perfect position to see what's happening at the front of the stage. Now, I mean, I'm not playing huge festivals like that chap is, but I've played gigs recently in a brewery in Boones Mill, Virginia. It's the same place that had the snake incident that we spoke of before.
Fair.
We was playing away, and there was an older chap, and I think he either slipped out the chair or he fell off the chair or something, and he fell hard onto the floor.
Yeah.
And, we can see that going on because we're looking out over the audience. And guess what we do? We stop. Let's stop the music and let's make sure that chap gets help.
And I've seen other artists do it. Not even there was a big thing, not even a week later, Adele did it. She stopped the audience, calmed everybody down, and kind of now, at some point in time, though, from what I've been reading here, there was some issues that have been pointed out that security wasn't what it was supposed to be. They didn't do proper background checks or vetting for the security that was coming. They oversold the concert because they were money hungry. But, I mean, there's no way that many people and you can see it happening on camera. If you Google it right now and you're listening to this episode, go back and look at the videos. There's no way he couldn't see that from the stage, Tim. It's just not possible.
And I've seen other footage of other rock festivals where people start getting crushed and the band stops and said, okay, let's stop this. Everyone needs to stand back and we're just going to take a break. Let's get this figured out and we'll come back when everything's okay.
It's just and that many people, 300 people. So basically, he was scheduled to start at 8:45 p.m. Didn't take the stage until approximately 9:02. The song actually started at 9:06 with the opening song "Escape Plan." His appearance on stage resulted in people just pushing as aggressively forward as they could, leading to humans being crushed. At about 9 p.m. before starting, members of the crowd pressed forward. And they said that they had already, at that point, that's right before he went on, that they had already kind of stopped people from doing that. The other issue from what I read was there was obviously people panicked, but they said that there was no good, because of the way they had the barricades set up, there was no escape routes for people. Once you were in there, it was very hard for you to get back out.
Yeah.
Which sounds terrifying. if I'm being completely honest with you. That's like, I'm super claustrophobic, Tim. I don't know if you know that, but I'm like very, very, very claustrophobic. And one of my biggest fears is not like, it's like, even when I'm like, if you're laying in bed and like the dog sits beside me and I can't move my arms and legs because it's holding the blanket down, that creates fear in me. So this is like my worst nightmare.
Yeah. So you're not someone who would want a weighted blanket then?
No, remember we had this conversation. Keep that off of me. Absolutely not. Wait, did you buy a weighted blanket or did you just ask me how I felt about them?
Mrs. O'Sullivan bought a weighted blanket and she said, "Oh, it won't go on your side." And it went on my side. And I said, "That thing has to go."
So are you claustrophobic, Tim, or did you just not like it?
I just didn't like the weighted blanket. It was horrible. It just like...
Fair enough. I just don't know why. I guess some people say that it helps with, what's the word I'm looking for? It helps with anxiety, but I don't want to be held, Tim. Get off me. Leave me alone.
It was not for me.
It's a definite no. So I did go through, and this is kind of how we'll end it. This is kind of fun. Do you remember that website Ranker, Tim? Have you ever been on Ranker before?
I've seen that. Yeah.
So basically, people shared their worst festival horror stories. There's a few of here that are pretty funny that I'm going to end with. That's a little less. So moral of the story is, if you're going to do a music festival, come up with an idea that it doesn't involve a muddy moat.
Yes.
Because that seems to be the downfall of every music theater. Anyway. So everyone's favorite, Kanye West. So I guess he went to Bonnaroo years ago. You know what Bonnaroo is, right, Tim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's Tennessee, right? That's where they have Bonnaroo?
I thought it was out west, but anyhow.
I'm pretty sure it's on the East Coast, but it might be traveling. There's one, I'm pretty sure, in Tennessee. And the reason I know that is because it was the closest one to us in Southwest Virginia that a lot of my friends got to go to. I never did. But anyway, so Kanye West in Bonnaroo, he was supposed to show up at 10 p.m., didn't get there until 4 a.m. in the morning.
That's just rude.
He was the headliner. He's supposed to do some epic new style concert. This is somebody's like specific, thing that they wrote. I was going to change the way concerts are put on forever because, he's a genius, Tim, quote unquote. But ended up a disaster. The thousands and thousands of people waited all night to see him, got so fed up and angry, they started spray painting words with his name that we won't say on this podcast because it's PG, across all 700 acres of the venue. When he finally came out, the entire crowd was chanting the same thing they were spray painting, and he just got up and left. And it was, if you Google it, it was billed that he was had some new style and he was going to revitalize it. Did you know, I don't know how much you know about Kanye West or seen the headlines. His thing is he's supposed to be an artist and he he's original and like all that kind of stuff, whatever. Kind of like the whole doing 3D chess while everybody else is doing 2D type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the headliner and he showed up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's just rude.
I wouldn't stay around. I would have left. I don't care how much money I spent, Tim. I'm not staying to 4 a.m. to see somebody put on a concert.
No.
Anyway, so here we go. There was some guy who ripped off some people at one festival. This is somebody's story. Just hold on. One got caught by these people. Okay, this guy's a horrible writer, so it'll come together, I promise everybody. There was this one guy who ripped off some people at one festival, got caught by those people at this festival. That's what he was trying to say. He got severely beaten up and sent to the hospital, but later snuck back in wearing his hospital gown. Security caught him just as he was getting beaten up for a second time. They took his wristband like they should have the first time and kicked him out again. But the next morning, he got back in, still wearing the hospital gown, and they found him passed out on the stage. Here's my first question, Tim. If you ripped off some people for some concert tickets at a festival and you got beat up and got sent to the hospital, why would you try to come back 3 different times?
I think that person probably needs help.
That's what it sounds like. Anyway, so it was freezing cold and raining the entire weekend. If you dare leave the minimal comforts provided by your camp, you're guaranteed to be wading through a fit of mud. I basically hunkered down on the tent last night, shivering, waiting for it to be over. Some of my friends of mine railed and showed up on last night, only to find out all the music had been canceled. I went to sleep that night, and my tent got pushed away by a river. I woke up 50 foot away from the camp. So his literal tent got taken away with the river, Tim, we were talking about earlier.
That'd be
I don't know what I
scary.
would do in that situation. Also, how do we sleep through it? I feel like that would wake you up.
I think it would. All your stuff would get wet.
Well, I mean, if it was in the tent, if it was a really solid tent, would it?
Well, I mean, it would probably seep through the zips or something.
Tell us about that later if you go camping. Me and Tim obviously don't. All right, I'll leave it with one more.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Let's find a good one. Oh, gosh. Have you ever been in a mosh pit, Tim?
Yes, I have. It was seeing the Levelers in Brighton, and I was right at the front, and the person I was in was super into the Levelers, and it turned into a sort of mosh pit slamming type thing. And I lasted about 2 minutes in that, and I said, "You enjoy yourself. I'm going to stand at the back. This is too rowdy for me."
So rather than read any of these, I'm going to give a first-hand experience of Charlie. Because he brought up the mosh pit thing. So Charlie, my husband, will leave it at his experience at what's the one, Tim, that everybody went to in the early 2000s?
Lollapalooza,
No, dang
Warped
it.
Tour.
Warped Tour. So he went to Warped Tour. Now, mind you, he ended up with heat exhaustion at one point during this concert, but one of the ones he thought it was a good idea to jump, like to have people like put him up on their hands. It wasn't like a stage dive because he wasn't on stage, but he had people lift him up and like crowd surf. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So Charlie started crowd surfing, and he quickly discovered that it's not as easy to get down from those as you think. Like, I guess in his mind, he thought, I would crowd surf for a few minutes, they'll put me down. He said, no. It kept going on for a very long time, which was already annoying. But somebody stole his shoes.
Oh, goodness me.
And he said he was up there forever. He waited for but he really liked the shoes. So he waited until the end of the concert when everybody cleared out and went back and found his shoes. But then he also ended up with heat exhaustion, which I feel like happens all the time at Warped Tour. I had another friend who said that basically happened to her too, where she ended up with heat exhaustion.
I can see that.
But yeah, somebody stole his shoes. I just thought that was funny. And he said, I never tried crowd surfing again. He was really sad. He said, I like those shoes. Honestly, he said he walked around the rest of the concert without his shoes on. But anyway, so there you go. And the reason this was brought up, and I brought up the music festival thing, is because I had some friends who went to Blue Ridge One, and they requested we do this episode, Tim.
Well,
so
there
this
we
is
are.
for you, Adam.
There we are. Your wish is our podcasting command.
And Tim, I guess the moral of the story is before you go to any music festivals, look at the weather.
Yes.
All right, bye.
Bye. See you later. Bye-bye.
To remind me of another day to come.